Good morning, everyone. So today we are going to discuss that is case study lumbering in Canada. So first of all, we should know about what is the meaning of lumbering. The cutting trees to manufacture wood for domestic, industrial, or commercial purposes is called lumbering. Lumbering has four phases: logging, driving, manufacturing, and transport. This chapter is all about lumbering in Canada. So, in certain countries, logging has generally been limited to the winter months from November to March. Most areas are covered with ice and snow. Horses or oxen can then drag the felled and trimmed logs on a sleigh over these snow covered grounds to collection point at the edge of the nearby river. So the topic is lumbering in Canada. So without wasting time, let's come to the point. So Canada lies in the northern part of the North America and much of it is covered with a thick forest. These forests are found in the Hudson Bay in the Rocky Mountains. Here the summers are short and warm, but the winters are long and cold. Lumbering is a widespread occupation in Canada. This is because about 40% of the Canada is covered with coniferous forest. These forests extend from Newfoundland in the east to British Columbia and Yukon in the west. About one third of all the lumber and timber in the world comes out of Canada, and they are the leading exporter of wood products. Lumbering in Canada is done in the winter months when the ground is frozen and covered in snow. It is easier to heave logs across the land. These logs are then piled above the frozen rivers, waiting to be transported when the ice melts in the spring. Some farmers become seasonal lumberjacks because crop cultivation comes to an standstill throughout the winter months. The most important trees of these forests are the pine and fir. They have tall, straight trunks with sloping branches and needle-like leaves that help the heavy snow slide off. Even in winter, the trees do not lose their sharp green needle-like leaves. The wood of these trees is soft and easy to cut. The wood is used to make houses, furniture, and matchsticks, but most of the wood is used to make paper for newspaper and magazines. Lumbering is a major industry in Canada, and it ranks the second largest internationally. Furthermore, this industry plays a key role in maintaining the economic prosperity of Canada's rural and remote communities. So now let's come to the point, that is history of timber trade, when and how it is started in Canada. Wood has been the main product of Canadian trade ever since the 19th century. The wood industry of Canada owes its emergence to the British Royal Navy, as the timber trade eventually gained importance due to the heavy European demand. This trade brought investment and immigration to the eastern Canada, fostered economic development, and transformed the regional environment. It encouraged exploration, the building of towns and villages, and the opening of roads. So the now point is about lumber tree species. The trees from which lumber is produced can be hardwood or softwood trees. Hardwood trees have leaves which are shed in winters. They include oak, maples, walnuts, cherries, and birches. But they also include balsa, which is the softest and the lightest of all the hardwoods. Softwood trees have needle-like leaves that do not shed their leaves in the winter, but remain green throughout the year and called evergreens. Softwood trees include pines, firs, hemlocks, spruces, and redwoods. In Canada, the principal softwood lumber species are spruce, pine, hemlock, Douglas, fir, larch, and western red cedar, while the predominant hardwood species are birch, maple, and oak. British Columbia produces roughly two-thirds of the softwood lumber supply. As a result, softwood plywood is manufactured predominantly in that province. Hardwood lumber and plywood are manufactured in Ontario and Quebec. And oriented strand board is made across the Canada near the necessary supplies of aspen and poplar trees. So the point is, how many products can be obtained by this lumbering? The products created by the lumber and the wood industries include lumber, veneer, plywood, particle board, oriented strand board. These products are created by mechanical processes such as sawing, peeling, slicing, or chipping. So it is now necessary to understand the manufacturing process. So actually given below is a typical sequence of the operations for processing trees into the lumber. It consists of the 5 different stages. First is inspection. The log is cleaned and each climb is removed once they are cut from the standing tree. A careful inspection of the logs for any fault such as fungus or unwanted pieces of metal is carried out during this process. So first process is inspection. Second process is debarking. In this process, high-powered jets are used to remove the bark from the trunk. Barks can also be removed using a series of cutting blades rotated along the surface of the log. These barks may not be disposed but can be used for decorative purposes. And third process is that is bucking logs. The logs are then cut into the appropriate sizes by a process known as bucking logs. The larger pieces are used for plywood and the smaller, less healthy ones for pulp. Buck saws are used to cut large logs. These preparations take place while the wood is still wet and hence water is constantly sprayed over the log to avoid drying. So the first process was inspection, third process debarking, second process was debarking, third is bucking logs, and the last, that is fourth, cutting and edging. So optical sensors are used to measure and scan the wood for any defect. A computer then map out the series of cut would produce the most solid wood. However, the final decision of how the wood is to be cut made by the experienced computer operator. The operator controls the headings, that is saw cut in the board lengthwise, and last process is planning and gridding. So only the seasoned planned and gridded board are used. The boards are seasoned by placing them in a holding areas over time or are heated in a kiln to draw out as much moisture as possible. So now the topic is what are the factors which are favoring lumbering in Canada. So let's come to the point. Coniferous forests are characterized by the following favorable factors for lumbering. The coniferous are limited in species. Pine, spruce and fir in the northern forest and larch in the warmer south are the most important. Lumbering is normally carried out in winters when the sap ceases to flow. This makes the felling of trees easier. The snow-covered ground makes logging and haulage, that is, a relatively easy job. The logs are dragged to the rivers and eventually float downstream to the sawmills when the rivers thaw in spring. This has greatly assisted the lumbering industry in eastern Canada and Sweden. Now let's come to the point, that is life of a lumberjack. So lumberjacks are the woodcutters who started working for timber trade around the time it bloomed. Lumberjacks from Canada stand as a symbol of strength and masculinity because of the exhausting nature of their work and harsh condition they live under. It is estimated that in the 19th century, half of the Canadian males worked as lumberjacks. The introduction of the modern machinery allowed the women to work as loggers, although it remains a predominantly male domain. So as you all know, students, we already have completed this chapter in the classroom. So it was your just revision class. Stay tuned. Thank you. Have a nice day.